Welcome, neighbors, to the Teletown Hall with our County Mayor Dale Honas and your neighbors who also happen to be frontline workers. My name is Jason Morales, and I'm an organizer with 1199 SCIU, the largest healthcare worker union in the state of Florida. In the midst of COVID-19 crisis, we hope everyone is putting safety first by sheltering in place and practicing social distancing. The purpose of tonight's call is to hear from Mayor Honas about the latest Broward County and statewide information on COVID-19. Also, to hear from your neighbors about how the crisis has exposed the cracks in our system by highlighting the insecurity working families will continue to face if we don't find solutions to our common struggles. Let's give it a couple of minutes so that we might welcome more of your neighbors to this call. Welcome, neighbors, to this Teletown Hall with our County Mayor Dale Honas and your neighbors who also happen to be frontline workers. My name is Jason Morales, and I'm an organizer with 1199 SCIU, the largest healthcare workers union in the state of Florida. In the midst of COVID-19 crisis, we hope everyone is putting safety first by sheltering in place and practicing social distancing. The purpose of tonight's call is to hear from Mayor Honas about the latest Broward County and statewide information on COVID-19. Also, to hear from your neighbors about how this crisis has exposed the cracks in our system by highlighting the insecurity working families will continue to face if we don't find solutions to our common struggles. In this call, we'll be closing with a Q&A session, so please dial 0 on your phone if you have any questions. You'll be connected to our operator. If we don't get to your questions during this call, we'll follow up with you directly in the coming days. Let's give it a couple of more minutes so we might welcome more of your neighbors to this great call. Welcome, neighbors, to this Teletown Hall with our County Mayor Dale Honas and your neighbors who also happen to be frontline workers. My name is Jason Morales, and I'm an organizer with 1199 SCIU, the largest healthcare workers union in the state of Florida. In the midst of COVID-19 crisis, we hope everyone is putting safety first by sheltering in place and practicing social distancing. The purpose of tonight's call is to hear from Mayor Honas about the latest Broward County and statewide information on COVID-19. Also, to hear from your neighbors about how the crisis has exposed the cracks in our system by highlighting the insecurity working families will continue to face if we don't find solutions to our common struggles. We will be closing our session with a Q&A, so please dial 0 on your phone if you have any questions, and you'll be connected to our operator. If we don't get to your questions tonight during this call, we'll follow up you directly in the coming days. Let's give it one more minute so we can welcome more of your neighbors to this call. Okay, let's get started, everyone. Welcome to the call, neighbors. Again, I am Jason Morales, and I work with 1199 SCIU, the largest healthcare workers union in Florida. Thank you for joining us in this important Teletown Hall with Mayor Honas tonight. The goal of this call is to give the latest information on our response to the COVID-19 pandemic, to hear from your neighbors about how this crisis is impacting all of us, and finally, we are also here to talk about how we can organize during this challenging time to improve the health, safety, and financial security of working families in Florida. We're going to ask you to participate in this call. So first, here's our first poll. Pull out your phones and get ready to push on your touch tone pad. First question and poll of the night. Do you think this pandemic has changed our perceptions of essential workers? Press 1 for very much, 2 for somewhat, 3 not much, and 4 for none. Again, do you think this pandemic has changed our perceptions of essential workers? Press 1 for very much, 2 for somewhat, 3 not much, 4 for none. We'll give it a couple of seconds for folks to answer. Thanks for everyone for participating in the call. As we get results in, we'll make sure to highlight those as we get the call going. Great. So let's jump right into it. Thank you again for participating in the poll that we just conducted. So again, we want to welcome to the call a friend, a leader who has been a champion through this crisis, Mayor Dale Honus. Mayor, could you please open us up by giving your residents a quick update about the local response to COVID-19? Mayor, you're up.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for joining this call. And let me thank our frontline workers, especially those who are in the healthcare field, for demonstrating your braveness and acting as heroes for us to ensure that we're facing this fight. And we've been fairly successful so far, thanks to you, so many of you that are out there. To give you a brief update as to where we are today, our numbers show that in Broward County we have 4,720 positive cases. In Miami-Dade County, 11,702. In Palm Beach, 2,818. And total across the state of Florida, 32,846. What we've witnessed in the last few days, especially here in Broward County, is that we've seen more than a flattening of the curve, but a reduction in new cases that are being reported positive from the testing that we've done. It puts us on a pathway where maybe in the not too distant future, we can get folks back to work so that they can take care of themselves and their families. I know it's been horrendous from a health standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint. And it points out, really, the value of those people that we often not value enough, those who provide the workforce to ensure that our economy keeps going and that we're taken care of. Oftentimes, the people who make the least amount of money. Now we're finding out that without these essential workers, that we're now using that terminology. Before, we didn't really pay that much attention and understood how important these people were who have taken care of us in so many ways over a long time. So Broward County response is being coordinated to a great extent throughout the region, especially in recent times. We moved fairly quickly to order the shutdown of non-essential businesses and to ensure that we are working to stop the spread of this pandemic, this virus that is causing us such havoc. Parts of what we've done that are really critical to helping our folks was the early work with the Broward County Health Department, which is a state-run health facility, and Dr. Tachi. Many of you might have noticed at the onset that we had higher numbers than the rest of the region, and that is because we're testing at a high level early. There was a lot of tracing and isolation of people who had the virus in our community. So we're benefiting from that early work to the point where we're now seeing some reduction. The county's response in terms of support at the earliest point was to support the health department in tracing. We allow them to use our call center, and we provide workers for them to make those phone calls to get in touch with the people who may have had this virus. We also set up at an early stage a hotline, a 954-357-9500 number that specifically deals with the pandemic, where people can get information on a daily basis as to what's going on. The response from the federal government in terms of providing some relief has not trickled out as much as it should. And trickle is probably not even the right thing, because some of that aid hasn't reached the people yet. We have put the information out as much as we possibly can on a regular basis, offering assistance. My staff in my office has worked ceaseless. None of us have taken any time off, really. We've been at it for a long period of time, working to ensure that we're here to support the community. We've also worked to ensure that our social service department is out there on the front line, even though a lot of folks wanted us as a government to shut down. We couldn't afford to shut down because we provide the backbone of the infrastructure to keep the county going, whether it be through our roads, bus service that many depend on, or airport, seaport that brings goods in from other parts of the country and overseas to provide the groceries that are in the grocery stores. Our Human Services team runs the Family Success Center. And through our Family Success Center, we provide a good amount of support for people who might have issues, whether it be homelessness or needing funds to help pay other bills. We've been there with that. So we've got that going. We also would like to share with you, and many on the call should take that number, that 357-9500 number, 954-357-9500 to get some help. You'll be able to get a lot more information that I'm going to be able to give out to you tonight as to specific issues that you may have. There's another number also, 211 Broward, that the county funds, and that's you dial 211 on your phone, and it's often called first call for help. Whether someone is facing any kind of crisis, even to the point where they might be despondent about life, that 211 number will be there to help the community also. The Family Success Center call line is 954-357-6367. That's a more direct line. And what we've done with that is ensure that it continues to help those who might need referrals because they're facing homelessness, individuals who may need some coaching as to how to deal with their financial situation, and just overall trying to help families along the way. With the leveling off that we've seen, there's now conversation about how do we go forward. So I had a press conference yesterday discussing some of what we might do in order to get started on our way to some sort of recovery, is to open our parks and recreational facilities that were closed. Many folks, especially those who are not high wage earners, live in dense communities, apartment complexes, and need that space for recreation. So our libraries, our parks, not our libraries, our parks will be open this week on Thursday. Not every single one, because some of those are being used for testings and food distribution. That's something we've worked with Feeding South Florida to set up also. Many of our parks are using that for food distribution. I do send out on a regular basis information that includes some of the places you can go to get assistance for food. But one place that you can get a list of the different distribution sites throughout South Florida for food is Feeding South Florida. And that's feedingsouthflorida.org. Is a place where you can get information regarding how you might be able to access some food distribution. There are sites all over South Florida that you can go to. They have on their website the different locations and the hours that those locations are open for assistance to anyone that might need those assistance. I'll rest at that, and if there's any questions, I'll be willing to answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor Honus, for the update and the resourceful information. I'm pretty sure our the community would love to hear the update and the information that you gave out. Before we get into our great speakers, we want to hear. Before we get into our speakers, we'll take a question from the community first. Remember, if you have a question on your touchtone pad, press 0, and you'll be connected to our operator to ask a question. And again, if you have a question, press 0 on your phone, and you'll be connected to our operator. So our first question of the night comes from Mary from Miramar. Mary, you are on.
Yes, my question was, as a Miramar resident, so I would like to know when the country is open, so what are the precautions that you're going to provide to secure us? Because, we're going to be one on top of the other. So I would like to know what we're going to do. I think we're going to have more cases on that case, more people going to be dying. So what are you intend to do about it?
Thank you very much for that question. First and foremost, we haven't rushed and we're not rushing to reopen. And when we do, we have decided it will be a phased way of reopening. And we will ask the community to continue doing what they did to get us where we are, because it's because of the community why we've seen that flattening of the curve and now some reduction in the number of daily cases that we see coming in. There's some criteria that were set by the CDC, and before we get to where we can start with any kind of opening, and those are, there are 5 different sets of criteria that we need to meet. One is a downward trajectory of influenza-like illness reported within a 14-day period. We have met that criteria. A downward trajectory of COVID-19-like syndromic cases reported within a 14-day period. We've met that. Downward trajectory of documented cases within a 14-day period. Or downward trajectory of positive tests as a result of testing at the same percent of testing that we had before, and we've met that. Hospitals and healthcare facilities able to treat all patients that could possibly go in without going to crisis mode. Yes, we've met that. Robust testing in place for at-risk healthcare workers, including emergent antibody testing. That's one that we're working on, but let me let you know also that part of what we're working right now as I speak to you to do is to put more testing sites in place throughout the community. That's one. 2 is to do testing for those who are homebound. People are not able to leave their homes. We have an agreement about to be executed within the next couple of days to work with the Florida Health Department to let that happen. We're also working with one of our local universities to do antibody testing. We're hoping to get some of those tests, kits for the antibody testing that the governor is supposed to receive early next week. And that will give us a good picture as to who might have already had the virus and have gotten over it throughout the community, which may have built some immunity. So we are again not rushing. And once we put these, once we go back, understand we're not going to go back and say abandon all the things that we've done before in order to that protected us and got us to where we are. We're still going to ask folks to do social distancing. We're still going to ask that you wear your mask. We're still going to ask that you follow the guidelines that the CDC has set, where you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, use sanitizer where you can't wash your hands. And I can pretty much assure you that once we get back out there, we're not going to go to a place where we're going to have a crowded. Part of what we've done with the passage or what we'll have in the next day or so of the lifting of some of those restrictions from the emergency order is we're going to require that if you go to a park, you still practice social distancing. If you go to a pool, you still practice social distancing. If you are to go out on a boat, you practice social distance. So all of those things that we're looking to ease up on now, we still have the protection in place that we have utilized to get to where we are now.
Great. Thank you for that, Mayor, and thank you for that question, Mary. please visit solidarityresponse.org for resources. That's solidarityresponse.org for resources and how to get involved and take action. So we are really.
Let me just
really
make
lucky.
a statement here, if I may.
Yes.
That unions are critical to bringing about balance. If we did not have unions, we wouldn't have a 40-hour work week. We would probably not have gotten rid of child labor. We wouldn't have standards set for safety for workers. And I can tell you that we probably wouldn't have a living wage either. I've worked tirelessly in that effort, and the union, SEIU, you've been champions, and other unions also, but I'd say SEIU, you're at the front line of ensuring that we find a way to properly pay and provide the standards that are necessary for our frontline workers, for our essential workers to be able to work and have a living wage where they can take care of themselves and their family. And we still have a long way to go to get to where we are truly treating our workers fairly.
Great. Thank you for those words, Mayor Holness. So as I was saying, we are really lucky tonight. We have 3 frontline workers who are here to share their stories with you and ask you to join them in calling on Governor DeSantis to ask him to step up of our community and for working families as well. So it's my pleasure to introduce our 3 frontline workers speakers tonight. Tony Baldy, RN from 1199 SEIU, Marina Hall, plumber from Port Everglades, from ASME, and Renee Zeldin, adjunct professor, SEIU FPSU. So I want to welcome Tony Baldy to the call. Tony's a healthcare worker. So Tony, could you share your experience working in the hospital right here in Broward County during this crisis, and give us thoughts of what you think needs to be done, and share how your neighbors could help?
Hi, Jason. Good evening. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mayor. I can tell you, my name is Tony Baldy, by the way. I work in the ICU at Northwest Medical Center, and I've been primarily working in the COVID unit of the ICU. And I can tell you that it's been like every single time any one of us is going there, we're having extreme anxiety and stress towards it. And the anxiety and stress comes in because we don't have the proper gear that we need. We don't have enough of the gear that we need. Not even like simple stuff like disinfectant. All of those is like under lock and key. You know, we have to reuse the same N95 mask for multiple days. And, you know, we can't even clean off the equipment as we need properly because those disinfectant wipes are under lock and key, and you have to go to a completely different area of the hospital to get some. And it makes me realize that people don't really understand how much we actually clean, you know, and especially at this time where cleanliness is extremely important, you know, and to have such restrictive gear. We're working daily with these under these conditions give us extreme anxiety, and for us not to have the supplies that we need, it increases our frustration and, you know, including our mental stability, if I would say, because, you know, it's very overwhelming. A lot of places you talk to a lot of nurses and other healthcare workers, environmental staff, anyone that really works in the hospital, right? You hear all the stories, husbands and wives not staying in the same room together, family members not even, you know, welcomed into their to other family members' household because of fear of actually catching something. We have nurses and other frontline essential workers that work in the hospital that are being tested positive, and a lot of them within a short period of time. And you can tell the difference because of the lack of PPE, the fact that they slackened up on the appropriate measures that we need to take in order to care for these patients effectively. You see that a lot of times administration is threatening you that if they don't even have the proper equipment to give you, you can't even bring your own equipment from home without them threatening you, which again creates a lot of stress and anxiety and tension. At this time, it's just overwhelming. One of the things I wanted to inquire about is the hazard pay for the frontline staff. The mere fact that the conditions that we have to work in is so strenuous. It's not normal. It's not the normal condition that we have to work in. We're working with limited gear, not even appropriate gear, limited gear, right? And increased stress and anxiety. People are waking up in the middle of the night. They're not able to be around their, and for us not to be entitled to hazard pay is not something that should be like saying mandatory for us, given the extenuating circumstances that we have to work under. That is unacceptable to me, and I would like to know exactly what we're doing to push for hazard pay for the staff. Not even hazard pay. How about paid sick time for the employees who are under quarantine? How about if they have other family members who are under quarantine as well? What are we doing for them? What support do we have, resources and support do we have for the essential workers when they're going through hardships themselves? I'm sorry, that's my little spiel there.
Thank you, Tony, so much for sharing. Mayor Holness, I believe the question was posed at the end by Tony. Tony, if you could just repeat your question so the mayor could answer, that'd be great.
Yes, I just wanted to know exactly what are we doing for the essential workers, the hospital employees. I can tell you sometimes, even environmental, a lot of them have to take the bus. They have to travel 2 hours to take the bus to come to work. And, at this moment, they're coming to work and they're telling them, they don't need them. They have to go back home. They're just wasted like 4 hours of their day, like that. What are we doing for these for first responders who have been affected because of the situation? What resources and support does the city have for them?
Okay, so you asked a very good question. There is, however, a challenge here, because the way the government works, in terms of the hospitals, they are independently run bodies. Even the public hospitals like Broward Health and Memorial Hospital System, they actually have their own taxing authority, and they're not run by the county or the city. They're run independently. Now, I support your cause in terms of ensuring that you have the proper equipment that's necessary and that you'll be properly compensated, and that we also ought to be looking out for the mental well-being of the workers that are on the front line. I can tell you what I can do with that is I'll pass on your information and your question to Broward Health, who I have some relationship with in terms of their leadership. But in terms of the county actually doing something with that, it's basically not within our hands to do that. We don't legislate the hospital operations. The state would have something to do with that more than we would at the county level. But again, I'll pass your concern on to those who I believe can be of help.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Tony, for sharing your story and, of course, that great question. Next, we have, I want to welcome to the call Marino Hall. Marino is a plumber in Port Everglades. Marino, same question. If you could just share your experience right now working in Broward County during this crisis and what you think needs to be done, and just share your thoughts on how neighbors could help.
Yes, good afternoon. A pleasant good afternoon to you, Mr. Mayor Holiness, and to all on the call. It's a pleasure to be a part of this meeting, and thank you for your time. My name is Marino Hall, and I am a plumber at Port Everglades for more than 2 years now as a plumber. I also live here in Broward County, and as a frontline worker, my job requires me and other employees to work in and out of terminals, coming into contact with thousands of people from all around the world, traveling through our ports, which is one of the powerhouse for Broward County. And also, it was a contractor through Princess Cruises that was exposed at our port. That was reported it was exposed to the COVID-19 at our port. It really hit home knowing that we had to come into contact or face-to-face with these passengers traveling all around the world. And we had to wait for several weeks for the appropriate PPEs. So on a daily basis, going home to my 7-year-old daughter, in the back of my mind, the only thing I could think of is, do I have COVID-19? Seeing that I was coming into contact throughout the terminal with these travelers, or even other employees possibly being infected. It was very stressful because the requirements at the time was you had to have travel history or be of a certain age to be tested. Moving forward, one of the questions is, do we have sufficient funds or do we have sufficient PPEs for our frontline workers for the up and coming months as we continue to battle the COVID-19? We heard of, we have heard of big and small businesses being bailed out. My question is our local government being bailed out also? Seeing that we are the ones that help the counties to continue generating funds, and should we expect possible layoffs here at Broward County? So my question today is, do we have sufficient funds or sufficient PPEs to carry us through the next several months, or as long as it will take us to battle the COVID-19? And as a local government, are we being supplied with sufficient funds so that we don't see layoffs?
Thank you very much, Marino, for your question, and thank you for your service to the people of Broward County. We're truly grateful, and as you mentioned, Port Everglades is one of our economic powerhouse. It provides 14,000 people direct employment there and supports over 200,000 jobs across the state of Florida. So it is essential that we keep that powerhouse running, and I'm grateful that you are helping to provide the infrastructure through your work for what we need to do to keep that place going. Now, as to your question, let me apologize for us probably not having all the PPEs that we needed up front, but everyone knows that was a national crisis, and unfortunately, we were scrounging, as every local government and every small business and everyone out there was, to get those PPEs in. We do have PPEs in now, and we should have sufficient now. About a week and a half ago, we were supposed to get 500,000 masks in, but that was diverted somewhere else. We believe someone in a higher office diverted them somewhere else. But we have worked to get those PPEs in, and we have them, and we'll have sufficient in place to ensure that everyone is able to get those masks and whatever else they need to protect themselves as they go out to work. Now, in terms of a bailout for our local government, because as you rightly said, small business were supposed to get some money, but a lot of big business took the money. Some are now being shamed into giving some of that money back. The situation is as it is now. The federal government has not agreed to bail out local government. We will get some funding to cover some costs that we've experienced. We'll get some funds, I believe, for the airport, which is pretty much totally shut down at this point in time, with less than 5% of the passenger load that we experienced before. But there's a bill that the Congress had been pushing for, primarily the Democratic side of the U.S. Congress, and that is to give relief to state and local government. If you've been watching the news, you've heard that the Senate, led by Mitch McConnell, says no, let the states and the local government go bankrupt, which to me doesn't make any sense at all. And as you rightly pointed out, if we were to bankrupt or close down Port Everglades, what happens to the workers that are there? What happens to that infrastructure that's there that accommodates travel, passengers on cruises, but much beyond that? Port Everglades is a lot more than just that. Port Everglades is the place where all the jet fuel that powers the 4 international airports, including one in Southwest Florida, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, Broward County, and Southwest Florida. That's where the fuel comes in for jet fuel for that. All the gasoline for 7 counties in the southern portion of Florida goes through Port Everglades. The groceries that you get, the produce that you get, comes through Port Everglades. So to shut it down would make no sense at all. I'm hoping that Mitch McConnell will realize that the federal government have the capacity that local government doesn't have. We are required to balance our budgets. We can't spend any more than we receive. In fact, what is being done as we talk now is not to look at layoff, but to look at how we don't fill vacant positions. In the last economic downturn, because of the great steward that we have as our county administrator, Berta Henry, we had some funds reserved, and we do have some fund reserved now to ensure that we didn't lay off folks. I came in as an elected official in 2010, still in that economic downturn, and what we had was furloughs. So we're going to do everything we can not to lay off people. In fact, I had to give back a little bit of my earnings at the time also in order to ensure that we didn't let people go home without a paycheck. We will continue to work to make sure that we're continuing that kind of stuff in Broward County, because we're all in it together. And we understand clearly the need of our people. We are on the front line, just as you are. We're the government that's closest to the people, understanding the needs of the people. We are the people.
Thank you, Mayor Holness, for that answer, and thank you again, Marino, for sharing your story and that great question. Again, the website to visit is solidarityresponse.org. That's solidarityresponse.org. You will go there and you'll find fill out a worker impact survey. You will also,
Jason.
Yes.
Could just one of the speakers go on mute? I think Marino, if everybody who was talking to go on mute, there's a background noise. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Again, the website is solidarityresponse.org. You'll go on there and you'll see our demands, as well as be able to fill out our worker impact survey. You'll also find our Solidarity Response Action Hotline number there, where you're able to call on the governor. And lastly, we want you to encourage, and we encourage you folks, if you are in solidarity with frontline workers and our demands, please, we are asking folks to hang a ribbon in solidarity for our workers. Hang a ribbon, take a picture, put it on social media, hang it on a tree, your backyard, your front yard. We encourage everyone to visit the solidarityresponse.org website, and you will see our call to action to hang a ribbon in solidarity of our workers. So we hope that you're able to do that and plug it online. Next, Mayor, we have a question from Edith Forstall from 32BJ. Edith, if you are on, you have the floor. Edith, you're on.
Can you guys hear me? I'm on mute?
Yes, now we hear you, Edith. You're on.
Good afternoon, Mayors. Hello?
Good afternoon.
Okay, my name is Edith Forstall. I am one of the airport Fort Lauderdale workers. I've been laid off for a month. I never can receive unemployment. I have a question for you. We know that the state and government control the broken unemployment insurance system and so that. But is there anything Broward County government can ensure that everyone who needs unemployment insurance, especially the $600 from the federal government, get it? Also, is there any pressure you can bring to make sure that unemployment and insurance gets paid back to the date or last day versus when the application was received?
Well, thank you for your question. Let me empathize with you, the situation you're in. Unfortunately, the unemployment system is run by the state government. I can assure you, if it was done by Broward County, we probably wouldn't have the issues we have with folks being able to get their funding, their checks. The system wasn't so good to begin with because, for one, the amount of funding that they allocated for folks is only $275, and you can't pay your light bill on it and your water bill per month. But the federal government saw it fit, led by mostly Nancy Pelosi and those on the side of the aisle, to put $600 in for you to receive. What we have done is we have sent out to all our people in our contact database and distributed to many churches the paper applications that can be filled out and sent in through Federal Express, and give that information that those paper copies can go in. So we've done that at a local level. I can tell you also that I've spoken to people at the state level about ensuring that this thing is fixed. They haven't done it yet. I'm praying that it will be done soon. Unfortunately, again, we don't have the ability to run that system. It is run through the state government, and we'll continue to advocate for that system being fixed and be up and running efficiently pretty soon. I'm working with some folks who are talking about probably helping to build a call center to help with some of that backlog. But beyond that, there's unfortunately not a whole lot we can do at the county level.
Great. Thank you for that answer, Mayor, and thank you for that question, Edith. Lastly, we have our next speaker. I want to welcome to the call Renee Zeldin. Renee is an adjunct professor who is a Broward resident. Renee, same question. If you could share your experience working here in Broward County during this crisis, and what do you think needs to be done, and just share with us how our neighbors could help.
Thank you. Well, many people think that because I'm an adjunct instructor, I'm a college professor, I must not be struggling, I must be doing great. Well, it shouldn't have been this pandemic that brought it out, but we don't get sick leave, we don't get unemployment insurance, there's so many things, we don't get paid well. Before our college, and I'm talking about Broward College, decided to go remote learning, I had a student who went out of the country for spring break. When he got back, we were all worried what's going to happen, the anxiety. That's all we talked about in class. I was sitting next to him, and I was thinking, I don't know if he's a carrier. I'm asthmatic, and I'm not that young. And what am I going to do? I have no insurance. I make too much for the Obamacare. I have to end up paying it back. It's too much of a problem, so I have no insurance. I am glad that the college went remotely, but I'm afraid what's going to happen when we go back. There are too many students in one small room. They come in sick, and I have to also. I lose a lot of money if I miss a class. They take money away for every hour, and, of course, they pay a substitute even less. But I still have to prepare and do all the grading, and it takes extra hours. If I'm lucky, which it's usually less than $15 an hour I make, when it comes down to it, I happen to teach writing. And if you can think about it, I've got all this prep and editing and all that stuff. I love what I do. I'm good at it. I am really proud to teach and train the next generation of first responders and essential workers. Broward College, we prepare them. But I wish that as an adjunct instructor, we were treated fairly, get sick leave, and unemployment insurance. One last thing is we don't even get Social Security taken out of our checks. There's a loophole, and we get money put in a fund that we can't touch till we, retire and or quit teaching. So I can't afford to retire because it doesn't make enough money, and I don't even know what's going to happen with unemployment insurance. It's just not fair. Basically, that's it. It's unfair what we're treated. I know I'm not on the front line. I'm lucky. I'm very fortunate. I'm at home working many, many, many hours, but we're just as stressed as everyone else. And by the way, those that are on the front line, my heart goes out to you. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Renee, for sharing your story. I don't know if you had a direct question for Mayor Holness.
I really didn't. It's just, is there something that can be done to help the adjuncts maybe figure out what we can do for unemployment? Some of the schools are holding off 30 days. Well, that means 30 days I don't get paid. Unfortunately, I'm getting less pay because student enrollment is down 15% as of last Friday from Broward College. So I won't get as many classes. That's all I do is teach college. I happen to teach at multiple schools, but, I don't even qualify for unemployment. And half of my pay is going to be nothing for a month.
Professor Delvin, thank you so much for your work in building the future of our community and of our country. Your work is invaluable to building a stronger world for all of us. I understand your frustration, but just so the callers on the phone understand that here's another institution that Broward County doesn't necessarily run or control. We do support them and help them out. I work with the college regularly on many issues. One of the things that we recently did was to help some of the lower income students with a college program where we put in about $1 million in to help those students that are struggling there. The state and the federal government's responsible for the majority of that funding, and primarily the state. And here's something that the members ought to understand. Elections have consequences. And if you want to change governance and how people are treated, you've got to change the government. It's your government. It's our government. So be mindful of that. Oftentimes what we end up doing is we put in more funds into large corporations and giving them breaks, and we're not funding institutions like our colleges and our hospitals to the extent that we ought to. So I understand your grief. I hope I would be able to help, but I'd say to you that you need to ensure that especially your state legislators and those who are at the state level understand how important it is by voting your choice for people who are going to look out for the interest of the ordinary folks out here on the front line.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Renee, again for sharing your story and sharing your experiences with us. And thank you, Mayor, for your answer to the question. We have a question from, we'll take a question from the folks in the community. We'll take a question from Anisha Battle from Miramar. Anisha Battle, you are on.
Hello, hi. I'm Anisha Battle. I'm a Miramar resident. I had a question for Mayor Holness. I'm a new homeowner, right? So I spent my career renting with no issues and no worries, but we decided last year to purchase a property. So now my concern is they have a lot of bailouts occurring for everybody, but I'm not sure if homeowners are receiving anything. We have escrows that are due. We have property tax issues. And if we're not working, and real estate agents like myself were advised not to hold any open houses, so we can't move property. And, you know, the real estate economy is pretty much at a standstill right now. My closings got canceled. Is there anything in place to kind of help us out? We don't qualify for much. If they see your 1099, they think you make too much, so you don't get any help. If you apply for unemployment, they say, well, no, because you don't have, you made more than $275 last week. And it's like this never-ending circle where the bailout is happening for everybody, but I'm not sure what happens to us who were adulting. We were very responsible. We did everything we were supposed to do. The experts said to have 3 months of reserves. But if this goes beyond the 3 months, what resources do we have? I did 211. I don't want to take from the food drive because we have sardines, we have tuna, you know, we have food. But I just don't feel confident that when they open up, it's like I've got this anxiety, like the lady, the nurse Tony said, there's this anxiety about, do I even want to go any of these places when you do open up our county? It's like I just have a panic attack even going to Walmart. So, like, what should we do? The adulting professional people who, you know, did everything right, and now, you know, your homeowners association is telling you, well, you need to pay your HOA fees, and then your property taxes, you reach out to your mortgage company. I know it's a compounded question, but I hear a lot about bailing out big businesses, and then I hear a lot about, you know, frontline workers, and then you're like, hey, I'm a mom, I have kids, I turn into the principal, the counselor, the cafeteria worker, I'm the janitor. I just don't know what to do, and I want to support the economy. I want to go to the nail shop, but I'm having a panic attack. I don't know what to do.
Well, Anisha, thanks for sharing your frustration. Let me also let you know that I'm a real estate broker, and that's how I made my living. Right? I'm still in that profession. And now more so from the standpoint of the investor property owner. And of all the properties that I have, only 2 people pay their rent this month, right? So I'm struggling just as you are with not having that income coming in. So I share your pain there. The one thing that I would say to you is this. Hopefully you might have a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or an FHA loan. There's an opportunity for you to enter into a forbearance, and they're granting them quite easily of up to 12 months where you won't have to make that payment should you have lost some income. And they're not requiring that all that money be paid back at the front either. If it's a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or FHA, they're now allowing you to pay it at the end of the loan. So there is a possibility of some relief there. What I'd recommend you do, and you should recommend this to all your clients also who have purchased from you, that they contact their lender to see how they can get that done. Now, a close friend of mine have a loan, and he got into a little bit of a tight spot, and he thought, well, man, I'm going to have to tell him all kind of stories and stuff. And in fact, when he called, all he had to do was push a number on his phone for them to allow for the deferral. Put the account number in, press a pound, and they grant him a 90-day relief where he doesn't have to make those payments for 90 days. So that's one thing there. That's not something that you probably want to do, but if you have to, that might be what you may have to do. So I would say look at that, and for all of those who are listening, don't wait until it's too late and you're behind. Reach out to your creditors, to your banks, to your credit card companies. Many of them are willing to work with you. It is unconscionable for folks not to give some breaks, understanding where it is now. And I know that there are many lenders, and part of what we send out, and if you want to send an email to me, we can send some of the things we send out. That's dwholeness@broward.org. Citibank, PNC, Truist, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, all of those actually have some forbearance programs in place that can give you a break, at least for a period of time. And part of what we're going to have to do is rebuild this economy, and rebuild it in such a way that should we ever get in a crisis like this again, we're not in this position where we can value frontline workers more, and really understand that every person who works has an essential job. Every person who works has an essential job, because all of us contribute to the greater good of ensuring that all of us are able to live and have some sort of a life where we can function. Without other people working, doing stuff for us, we're not going to be able to function. We can't function by ourselves.
Thank you for that, Mayor. We'll go to the next question. Roxy?
Hi, Mayor Holness. It's Roxy Nelson from 1199 SEIU. I just wanted to reflect on, want to appreciate you for being on the line with us. I am a vice president at 1199 SEIU, largest healthcare workers locals in the state. Appreciate all the workers on the line asking the questions, and all the community members asking the questions. I was reflecting on your advice to us about how the county is limited, and what the response can be to some of the questions that were raised, and wanted to just reflect on your attention calling us to the state and to the federal government as a way that these issues become resolved, and reflect on the idea that you're calling us to the next opportunity for us to take charge here is in the coming elections. I think one of the things that I think I'm hearing from the Anisha's anxiety, Tony's frustration, the questions that are on the line from Renee about being able to pay her bills, is that we don't have time. Our communities don't have time. And as the idea that all workers are essential, which I appreciate you just saying, I think the reason for this call and the reason for this conversation is to point folks to a way that they can take action right now, and help to fight to do the things that will make all our lives better, not frontline workers versus non-frontline workers, essential workers versus, we're all essential workers, and without us doing the work of our community, none of this functions. And so we keep asking folks to visit solidarityresponse.org. It's a website we set up with a set of demands for our state and federal government around things like paid sick leave, and fixing the broken unemployment insurance system. There are things we can all do that start before we vote, getting educated ourselves, talking to our neighbors. We're asking every community member to do a simple act to show solidarity with all workers by tying a ribbon on a tree, on a flagpole, on whatever you have to show your solidarity with this agenda. But Mr. Mayor, like I really want to ask you to reflect on, as you've seen, things change in Broward County or in your organizing over the years. Like, what are the ways that regular folks like are on the line who are calling to ask questions about unemployment insurance and how do they access it and how do they pay their mortgage and what is the relief? And you're telling us to go to the state and federal government. What are some things they could do right now? What do you suggest that they do to be able to help turn this thing around before they get a chance to vote in August and November?
Well, there's things that they can do. Of course, I gave you some hotline numbers that they can call to see what direction they can get to in terms of how they might be able to be directed towards some resources. And that phone number is 954-357-9500. We have folks that are there that can help point you in directions. That's at the county level. We provide for that. But a big part of what I think you need to do is to work collectively together, is to ensure that you're supporting your union, the SEIU and others, if you're not a part of SEIU, because it's essential that we have advocates like SEIU, 1199, and other unions out there that will do something like this to ensure that your voice is heard. But we can't get away from the fact that you still need to organize and be prepared to vote. Here is something that I'll tell you, that there's some research that have been done that shows that if 65% of the population votes on a constant basis, would have a totally different form of government. It'll be a totally different country. Because those who don't vote are usually the ones who really need the most to vote, so that their voices can be heard and their causes can be lifted up. So we still need to get, I know it's not going to happen right now, but you still got to make sure you do that. So if you're not a registered voter, you ought to be a registered voter. If you don't vote by mail, you should get the vote by mail ballot. Don't let folks tell you that, oh, you vote by mail, it doesn't count. I am there at the place where it's counted, and they count, so long as you turn it in on time. BrowardSOE.org. If you go to BrowardSOE.org, you can click on getting a vote by mail ballot mailed to your home for your convenience. And many might not even be party affiliated. And if you weren't this past election cycle in March, you couldn't have voted. So that's something you need to look at also to see how you can get that done. But again, the website that we gave you is a place you can go to get that vote by mail request in. The phone number I gave you, 954-357-9500, is a phone number you can call to get some relief to assist you. And Broward.org/coronavirus, Broward.org/coronavirus will give you some other links and some other places you can go to find some resources that can help you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor Holness, for that. And I wanted to again thank all the speakers that we had today. So thank you again for sharing your experiences. You know, these workers are here tonight because their stories highlight the problems so many of us are facing right now. Floridians across our state are coming together in a time of crisis to demand that our elected officials respond to the needs of working families. Just like Roxy said, you know, we're working on demands that we want our elected officials to hear. Right, so no more endless lines at the employment office or living paycheck to paycheck. We are calling for paid sick leave for all hazard pay for our frontline workers. We are demanding personal protective equipment, PPE, and a statewide fund for vulnerable communities regardless of immigration status. And more than ever, people need access to affordable health care, child care, and most importantly, compassion. So this brings us to our final poll question. So make sure you pull your phones out and get ready to participate in our final poll question. And the final poll question is as follows. What will you be willing to do to stand up for working families in this time of need? 1, show your support for working families by hanging a ribbon in front of your home. Press 2 take action by calling, emailing, or tweeting Governor DeSantis to take action. Touch 3 to write a letter to your local newspaper about the Working Families Agenda and our solidarity response. Again, what would you be willing to do to stand up for working families in this time of need? Push 1 to show your support for working families by hanging a ribbon in front of your home. Press 2, take action by calling, emailing, or tweeting Governor DeSantis to take action. 3, write a letter to your local newspaper about the Working Families Agenda and our solidarity response. I'll give it a couple of more seconds so folks could dial in their response. As you guys are dialing in, you can call Governor DeSantis at 866-395-3747. That's Governor DeSantis number 866-395-3747. And that concludes our poll. And so our poll shows that 54% of folks on the call are willing to hang a ribbon in front of your home around a tree. 43% will take action by calling, emailing, or tweeting Governor DeSantis to take action. And then 2% are willing to write a letter to the local newspaper about the Working Families Agenda and our solidarity response. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our final poll question. Now we move into our Q&A response. Just so you guys know, don't be surprised if someone follows up with you to help you take action on all of this stuff. Again, if you have a question, please press 0 and you'll be connected to our operator to ask the question. So we'll go straight into our questions here. We have several questions, Mr. Mayor, folks who are asking about the opening of parks as well as the timeline for beaches. You mentioned opening up parks. Paula Riveros-Bitten and Alicia Graham have asked questions on your timeline for parks being open as well as beaches being opened, and what are the plans to protect kids in parks? Hand sanitizers, maybe?
Yes. So in terms of the opening of our parks, we are looking to do that this week on Thursday to open the parks. In terms of the beaches, there's ongoing discussion on the beaches. We have not decided yet when. I have conversation with many of our mayors on a regular basis, and our last call with all the mayors was to discuss what we should do going forward in terms of opening beaches and businesses. And we didn't have a consensus yet on a time to open the beaches. I think we'll get there sooner or later, and probably sooner because of the fact that we're seeing this downward trajectory in terms of the number of new cases that are coming out testing positive. At the parks, the individual cities will determine what happens in the parks, but social distancing is still going to be required. I'm sure many will have some sanitizers, but again, social distancing, wearing a mask, and possibly a glove as you go. I want folks to understand that each of us has a role to play in stopping the spread of this pandemic. We have to take the actions that are necessary to protect ourselves, to protect our family and our neighbors. And our action will determine that. If you are not practicing social distancing, if you're not wearing a mask when you're in public, then you will contribute to the spread of this virus.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Holness, for that answer. So we are getting close to our end time. It is 6:10. I want to know if Nicholas, who was supposed to speak, is Nicholas, are you on the line?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for joining us. So folks, we had 3 guest speakers, and we have a 4th guest speaker, Nicholas. Nicholas is a undocumented worker, also a Broward resident. Nicholas, can you just share your experiences working in Broward County during this crisis, and kind of share your thoughts on what can be done?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Definitely.
It's a pleasure to be here. To be on this call. My name is Nicholas, and I'm an immigrant youth living in Broward County, and I work in a local warehouse. I joined Florida Immigrant Coalition throughout their organizing efforts during the legislative session of 2019. I went to Tallahassee and advocated against anti-immigrant legislation SB 168. We are essential workers every day, not just during this pandemic. I spent half of my paycheck just on bus passes and 2 different buses to go to work from Coconut Creek to Pompano Beach. Because as a non-documented immigrant, I can't even get access to a driver's license. I put my life on the line every day so people are able to receive the product they need, but still lack of medical insurance, unemployment relief checks, and driver's license for undocumented workers. We are essential workers every day, not just during this pandemic. Undocumented workers are often forgotten, but they're I'm a tax-paying person, but even though I pay those, I do not get any benefits for it for this pandemic. I think that we should be focusing on providing money for those who are not covered on the stimulus check or relief checks, because I myself do not have a medical insurance. In case I get sick, I could afford some treatment. I would like to call all my neighbors and friends to follow the WHO and CDC guidelines so we can slow down the spread and control the situation, and also for them to join organizations like Florida Immigrant Coalition or Union that continues to fight for immigrant rights and undocumented workers to make sure people like me are taken into the account, not just during a crisis, but every day. We need health care, we need a driver's license, we need sick pay leave, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nicholas, for sharing with that. Do you have a direct question
Yes.
sharing your story? Great. Awesome.
Yes. How can we assure free treatment for patients that don't have health care?
Well, we need to fix the healthcare system. You are definitely an essential worker, and healthcare should be universal, should be a human right. And what we're learning from this pandemic is that the broken system's not working. Because if you get ill and you can't take care of yourself, it means that the rest of us are at risk of getting ill. So we are all in this world together, and as humans, we ought to be looking out for our fellow human beings. No matter what your legal status is, no matter what your nationality or ethnicity is, or your social background, that should have nothing to do with the fact that everyone should have human rights. And I'm proud to let you know that I work with FLIC on a regular basis, Florida Immigrant Coalition. In fact, I've been working with FLIC now for 5 years on a citizenship drive project that we've been doing at the Lord Hill Mall every month, except since the pandemic, we've had to not do that. FLIC also, in my real estate office, conducts voter registration drive from that office, and have been doing that for quite a while now. So, again, we have to unite as humans to ensure that we're looking out for each other. And oftentimes, we get to where we look just for ourselves. But if we're not working collectively to protect and help others, we are weaker for it, not stronger.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Nicholas, and then thank you again, Mayor Holness, for answering. So that concludes our Q&A. For folks that we didn't get a chance to get to your question, we have recorded your question, and we will make sure to get all the questions to the mayor, so his team will be able to answer all your questions that we weren't able to get to tonight. So no worries, you'll be answered, and your questions have been recorded. So we apologize for if we didn't get to your questions tonight. So that
let me just add one thing, please.
Yes, I was just going to ask if you had any last words.
The order as it stands now for opening our parks, not finalized yet, not signed yet, we're looking at actually tomorrow morning early to open these parks, those that are being opened. But again, that order is being worked on, and draft changes are in the making also. But I expect that tomorrow we'll have that opening. And in terms of a final comment, let me thank the organizers of this event. Thank you for your work in helping us build a better Broward for all of us. And thank you for your work in ensuring that we are all working together to build prosperity for all our people. I'm here to serve you as much as I can. I'm grateful to have worked with SEIU over the years, particularly on a living wage at our airport. It took us several attempts and actually a change of some of the elected officials at the county. When I got here 10 years ago, we attempted to do it. We're not able to do it. But because of some changes and some new people elected to the commission, we're able to get it done unanimously. We still have some work to do with that, in that we need to ensure that for the people at the airport, that they get a full amount of funds to provide themselves with good insurance, good health care benefits. The work continues. The struggle continues indeed. But together, we will make things better for all of us if we're working together. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with me.
Thank you so much, Mayor Holness, again for joining us. Thank you to our guest speakers. So with that, we want to thank everyone for joining the call. We will be following up with all of you who are ready to show your support for the demands of working families. Remember to visit solidarityresponse.org. Go ahead and tie that ribbon around the tree starting this week as a sign of our solidarity and support for each other. There will be no recovery into our communities. Enjoy dignity, respect, and, of course, financial security. So we look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you again to Mayor Holness for getting on the call. Thank you for the community getting on the call. And thank you for our speakers for sharing their story. Thank you, and have a good night.